I'm Rod Meldrum, the Book of Mormon evidence guy. Listen, before we get into this awesome episode about the political assassination of the prophet Joseph Smith, one of our favorite historians, Craig Dunn, I just want to say that I'm thrilled to finally be able to announce our new and completely revamped Book of Mormon evidence streaming website. Now, this is the most comprehensive information and research that we've ever assembled on the truthfulness and validity of the Book of Mormon. You're going to be able to watch over 1,700 videos featuring some 450 of the greatest scholars and experts in every field of research on the Book of Mormon, as well as faithfully exploring other relevant topics of our time from our semi-annual expos, like, for example, Signs of the Times. What's happening today, and how does that fit in the scriptures? Science and religion, how do those fit together? Self-reliance and preparedness, how do we prepare for these latter days when Christ is coming again? And health and wellness, how do we stay healthy while we're doing this? So we've made it easier than ever to access our exclusive documentaries, our incredible presentations, our many DVDs, our podcasts, our TV series, and much, much more. Listen, folks, this is going to strengthen your faith and deepen your understanding of the gospel of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Your subscriptions are the primary way that you can show your support for us in this effort and outreach, so we are truly grateful to every one of you that support this movement by subscribing to our streaming service. We literally could not do this without you. We need your help, folks. Now you can join us as we celebrate a year of hard work to upgrade this new and improved, faster, easier, and more inspiring streaming website. So listen, join us today and go to watch.bookofmormonevidence.org and begin your exciting journey of discovery. Now let's on to the show. Hey everybody, this is Rod Meldrum, the Book of Mormon evidence guy, and I am here with my dear friend here, Craig Dunn. He is a consummate historian and especially as it relates to the martyrdom of Joseph Smith. If you've been watching the previous podcasts in the last few months, you've probably seen him, and we have had a lot of interest in these podcasts. We also have with us here today, Bril Hernandez.
Hola.
Hola. He's with us here, and he's going to be manning the cameras and everything here. So we are excited about having this. Let's just take a couple of seconds here and just kind of tell it. This is going to be awesome. I haven't even heard some of the things that Craig has brought up. Just a couple of things that he has told me is like, oh my gosh, this is additional insights. And I want to right now thank everybody who has been watching. We have over 50,000 views on these podcasts. And some of these people have had things to add and questions about and things with these previous 4 interviews that we've had. And Brill, maybe you can just really quickly explain how you're doing this.
Yeah. So basically, this is part 5 of this series, and we're creating a playlist that's part 1 through 4. If you haven't seen those, just stop, and then there's going to be a little blurb. It's going to come up. And then click on that, and you'll be able to watch it from beginning to end. Because I think some of our viewers may have missed the very first one because it was its own video. And then the next series of videos, we split into 3. And so that was part 1 through 3. And I think that's where the confusion might have been.
Yeah.
But now we're adding some, as we were talking earlier, we're tying up some loose ends here because you've asked some questions and he has some answers, really good ones.
Let's just take just a real quick second, and then we got to go to our sponsors for just a second. But tell us, what are we going to hear today?
Well, here's the thing. I wanted to address the comments that people made when they watched these videos. And I thought, oh my gosh, we didn't answer that. We didn't answer this. We didn't answer that. And so I had people making comments on there. Would you please tell me the rest of the story? And I thought, well, I had so many. I thought, well, why don't we just have a part 5 and just answer all those questions? And then when I started doing that, I thought, oh my gosh, I found something else, and I found something else. So I'm going to include that too. And so that's where we're at today, is really to kind of tie loose ends and give these people the answers.
And I made sure to take photos of all of the references. And so we'll be including references, and in the description you'll be able to see those. So I'm really excited for this.
Yeah, especially I think some of the people brought up. Well, you guys talked about these 4 guys who were outside the jail and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And you said you were going to tell us who they were, but that never happened.
That was one of the biggest ones right there.
Yeah.
The other one was the flash of light story, which we're going to talk about with Harry Rollins.
I was blown away by that.
Yeah,
so I've got some good information on that one too.
All right. Well, we just want to thank our sponsors. In fact, over here, you can see Legacy Tours and Travel is one of our main sponsors of our event. But and these podcasts would not be possible if it wasn't for
There it is,
our
right up
excellent
here,
sponsors.
right above my head.
There you
here,
go.
You can see it right
You
there.
can see it right there. Yeah. And we have a couple of tours that I'm going to be doing with Legacy Tours and Travel next year, and I'm going to invite you to come with me and do this exploring. This is going to be fantastic. The first one is going to be in June. So June the 5th to the 18th is the Sacred Histories American Covenant Tour. And it is just a phenomenal tour. It has basically everything from Adamic history to world history to church history to U.S. history to Book of Mormon history. It's all in this covenant land that we call America. And it's a really phenomenal tour. Chris Kimball joins me with that, and she's an expert on the Knights Templar and the posterity of Christ and so forth. It's just phenomenal stuff. The next one is going to be kind of a fun tour for me. It's going to be with the Universal Model people, Dean Sessions and Russ Barlow. And we're going to Iceland, folks. Come with us to Iceland.
This guy's a world traveler.
I don't know that there's very many seats left on that one. I think it's getting pretty full, but that's going to be August the 9th to the 22nd. It's going to also include a full solar eclipse while we're there. It's by land and by sea. So it's a land tour around Iceland, one of the last geologic areas of the world that's basically untouched. I mean, it's just absolutely tremendously
You're going to be there
gorgeous.
during the eclipse. Bring a flashlight.
Yeah, bring a flashlight for those 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the last. And then it's also a sea tour. So it's part of it is half of it's a cruise and half of it's on the land. So it's going to be awesome tour. And the last one's my personal favorite, which is the Book of Mormon chronology tour, where we follow the Book of Mormon chronologically from Lehi's landing in the Gulf of America to as it goes from the land of Nephi up to the land of the land of first inheritance, the land of Nephi, to the land of Zarahemla, to the land bountiful, and we finish the tour standing on top of the Hill Cumorah in New York, the one and only Hill Cumorah.
The newly restored Hill Cumorah.
The Elder Bednar just actually had
right.
another wonderful talk and reiterated the fact that this is the Hill Cumorah. So that's our tour.
So there's only one Hill Cumorah?
Just one.
Okay.
Just one, Brill. Let's come on. Get up to the speed now, brother.
Okay, I'm trying to follow along here. You know?
And then I am running out now, but I've been taking Cardio Miracle now for about 3 or 4 months, and it's been amazing. I'm beginning to feel more of my neuropathy going off, or leaving me. Less neuropathy. I can actually feel my feet more now than I was. And anyway, so we're gonna be doing more with Cardio Miracle. But we just wanted to kind of mention those guys. Right now, they were the major sponsor of our event. So, with that all said, we have a fantastic. This is going to be buckle up, everybody.
I know.
Just gonna
Put your seatbelts on because
I was so excited
say
to
that
talk
every
about
time.
this stuff.
Or find a chair.
While Brill was setting up all of the wires here, when there's hundreds of them going every direction, I started spilling the beans and getting him excited.
Oh my gosh! Hey, and I will have to say, in the previous ones, okay, so this is something for me about me personally, but I have studied this for quite a while. I've had an opportunity to be, go to to Carthage and so forth with, other historians and so forth. So I have had a lot to know about this. I was blown away, and I think that my blown awayness came across a little bit as being a little bit, I'm almost giddy with all this new information, but it is a very serious subject, and we understand that. We're not trying to be disrespectful to what happened there at Carthage in any way, shape, or form. We understand it was a horrible, tragic event. I was a little bit giddy just because of the knowledge that Craig has been bringing to me personally, and all of you sharing this amazing knowledge. And so I get a little bit excited about that. It comes across maybe as a little bit giddy at times, and I apologize if that's the case. I'm not trying to offend anybody, but I'm also going to be more quiet. Last time, in a couple of them, I wanted to kind of interject some things that I had known about or learned about. I'm just going to turn it over to you, Craig. So,
all right.
There you go.
The floor is mine for now.
he's putting himself on timeout, you guys.
That's right. That's right.
Well, listen, like I said, I got reviewing all of my own. It's funny to hear yourself speak. You don't sound the same. But anyway, got reviewing those, and I got reading the comments, and I thought, I really did miss that part. I really did not say that part. I really didn't finish up what I was going to do. So I want to kind of tie loose ends up here, but in doing so, you just keep finding more stuff. I kind of feel like Indiana Jones. You just keep finding more stuff, right? And there's another prize at the end of the tunnel. And so, and I think for a little bit, I'm kind of maybe experiencing a little bit, maybe what the men who were involved with the Joseph Smith Papers project were doing, because they're still finding little things. In fact, you probably, many of the people watching this video don't know, they probably will by the time it's out, that just this last couple of weeks, the church announced that there's 25 additional changes to the headings, not the Doctrine and Covenants sections themselves, but the headings, dates, times, things like that. Some other more deeply involved stuff about tithing and that the church has now made small corrections. So there'll be another new set. You'll have to all go out and buy another new set of scriptures.
I'm actually
not
about
really.
to. I'm actually about to though.
Not really, but
just use that.
yeah, it'll just be on here. But it'll be months from now before. But anyway, so those things are church history is a moving target. Some things will probably forever remain elusive, but boy, there's just more things with this Joseph Smith project that just keeps coming to the surface.
Yeah.
And I found some new things that I'm going to bring today too. But let's, why don't we go back to and start with I would really like to start with the flash of light story. Okay, because, and I'll bring you up to speed just a little bit. We have a report from an eyewitness outside the jail. So everything that happened inside the jail, we know from the two surviving apostles, right? Willard Richards and John Taylor. But what we have actually, what happened outside the jail after Joseph had gone out the window and was now down in the grounds below the jail yard, or in the jail yard, we have an eyewitness whose name was William Daniels. And William Daniels, of course, like I told you in the previous podcast, he had decided to join the church, okay, before the trial, which occurred a year after the martyrdom. He decided to join the church just because of what he had experienced at the jail. And of course, I told the story of how, you'll have to go back and look at the previous podcast to see the story of how William Daniels actually arrived to be at the jail in the mob. He was really just kind of conscripted, really not knowing what was going on in Warsaw, where most of the murderers came from. When he got there, saw everything and witnessed everything from outside the jail. So he's really the only one that we have that actually wrote and recorded back in Nauvoo, went back to Nauvoo to Lyman Littlefield, who was working for John Taylor at the printing office in Nauvoo, and spilled the story. Okay, and that got put in a small little pamphlet that was produced, and a lot of people claim that William Daniels actually just did that just to make money. But later on, we learned that he was one of the key witnesses at the trial. And the trial has been described in vivid detail by our current prophet now, Dallin H. Oaks.
Oh, really?
And so I failed to bring this book. So this is the book, The Carthage Conspiracy. It's one of the longest running books, but you can see it's written by Dallin Oaks and Marvin Hill. Okay, and they put this together while he was at one of the dean of the law school back in Chicago. So it was near Nauvoo.
Wow.
And so, yes, the very prophet that we have today of the church wrote this book called The Carthage Conspiracy, the trial of the accused assassins. And William Daniels' testimony, he was one of the key, out of the three key witnesses, he was one of those three. Okay? So he was one of those who was outside the jail telling the story of what he saw happen to Joseph Smith out in the jail yard, which is far different from what we talked about inside, told by Willard Richards, right?
You were showing me something that's in that book right here. What is that?
Well, I happened to open it up to a page which talks about the William Daniels testimony in here.
Okay.
But I noticed, too, that I had this in here since I was back in Nauvoo. For those who don't know, I spent 6 years in Nauvoo treating the missionaries back there as a doctor. And so while I was there, I got to go to all of the symposiums and things that were there. Well, one time, Dallin Oaks came and spoke there. And this is the original invitation card to come and hear Dallin Oaks speak. So this would have been about 2014. Okay, so over 10
like
years ago.
11 years ago. Yeah.
So it's in there. And he came and talked to us about the trial, and bore his testimony about the gospel and so forth. And so, if you don't have this book, if you want to really see what happened to the trial, this is it. And William Daniel's testimony is one of the key testimonies. But guess what? His testimony was discounted because of the story he told about the flash of light. And a lot of church historians would go, oh, yes, the flash of light story. But if you're not familiar with this story, it's that the story goes that William Daniel said that he saw when the men came up to take Joseph Smith's head off, because there was a reward out for his head. That's a common knowledge in a lot of history books, that a flash of light had come out of, it had hit.
Out of clear blue sky.
And on a rather clear day. It wasn't like there was thunder rolling at the time. And it literally prevented the men from taking, from debasing and decapitating and his body. Okay. And of course, when Browning, who was one of the attorneys at the trial, and interesting enough, he had defended Joseph Smith at one point, and then another time became now the attorney for the accused. Mm-hmm. Okay. And remember, there were 9 men who were indicted for the murder. 4 of them never showed up to the trial because they had bullet holes in them. And that would have obviously, convicted them of their sins. But anyway, so they left the state and disappeared. Okay. But the other 5 men who were prominent men in the county had to stand for trial. One of those. In fact, I have those. That's another thing that I have in here. This is kind of interesting, but I have the meet the defendants. Okay, meet the defendants in the Carthage conspiracy trial. I got this right off the internet. You can look this up. But here they are. So Mark Aldrich. Okay, Mark Aldrich. Okay. He actually ended up moving to Tucson, Arizona, and becoming the mayor of Tucson, Arizona later on. Right. Thomas Coke Sharp. He was actually the head of the Warsaw Signal newspaper down in Warsaw, one of the key agitators. Okay, Levi Williams. There's not a picture of all these people. I know where all their burial sites are because I've been there. But Levi Williams was actually the head of the entire 53rd Militia Unit, which included the 59th Regiment of Illinois. So he was the chief commander. Remember, the militia units were the people. Okay, they weren't like that. The United States had a central military back in Washington, but it was very small. So it's kind of like the National Guard is today. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so Levi Williams and the actual trial that is talked about by Dallin Oaks in his book. The actual trial was Joseph Smith, the death of Joseph Smith versus Levi Williams. So that was the actual name of the trial. Was named after the state of Illinois versus Levi Williams. So, and he's still buried just a few miles away from the jail. Wow. Okay. And then, of course, there were others. Jacob C. Davis, this is another one who was actually indicted. Believe it or not, he was at the time, his home was near Warsaw, but he was a state legislator. And his seat, where he sat, was right next to another man you might know called Abraham Lincoln, who was also a state legislator at the time, who later become president of the United States. Uh-huh. Okay, he was also indicted. Okay, so we have so we have a guy ahead of a newspaper, the guy ahead of the entire militia in Illinois, and then we have another guy who's a state legislator. These were the guys who were indicted for the murder of Joseph Smith. These were not flim-flam. These are leaders. So obviously those guys, if they would have tried to escape, everybody would have. Obviously.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead, Brio.
Just for those that may not be familiar with some of these words, what does it mean to be indicted?
Okay, the word indictment. So it's basically you are accused of a crime. Okay, and so you are indicted by a jury, by a grand jury. If it's a grand jury, if it's someone in prominent position in the government, so we call that a grand jury indictment. And if it's somebody in a small town or a state, okay, it's still a jury, but it's not a grand jury.
Right.
Okay, so you are indicted, which basically means you're going to have to answer to the law.
Right.
Okay, And it doesn't mean conviction. There's a difference
Right.
between indictment and conviction. Indictment just means you are called to answer in a court of your peers.
Right.
Okay. And of course, there's a process
Right.
to go through before you get to the actual trial. And that's why the trial occurred a whole year after the martyrdom.
Right.
Okay. And so these men actually had to stand and come to trial. Now, the thing that I find so interesting, if you read Dallin Oaks' book, is he makes it very clear that, look, we had one representative from the state who would defend Joseph Smith and Hyrum Smith. And then there were, 9 other attorneys on the other side. Okay. So 1 against 9, right? So, to me, that's not an even fight, but that's the way, who else wanted to come and defend Joseph Smith? The only person they could find, and actually they went through 3 or 4 people before they found one who would be willing to.
So
The
stick it
state
through.
needed money or whatever to come and defend.
Right.
And then the last one, of course, out of the 5 remaining, was a man by the name of William Grover. And interesting enough, he was one of the 4 shooters at the jail. And we'll talk a little bit more about him. And I visited his gravesite with Brian, who started the museum. That you can see I have the shirt on today.
Oh yeah, tell us a little bit about
Well,
your.
I went back. So
what
this
you
was
do.
the first year the museum was going. We had about 3,000. I was there.
Yeah.
I actually took some of the tours through the museum when I was doing my other tours.
Anybody mentioned the podcast? Say, hey, I saw you on the podcast.
Yes.
And I
In
went
fact,
to-
some people did recognize me from the podcast. I said, you can't miss me. I'm bald. Anyway, I look
bald
like
guys.
Dallin Oaks, actually.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we had about 3,000 people,
Nice.
believe it or not, come through
So where is that
the
again?
museum.
In-
It's
in
right on
Nauvoo?
Mulholland Street.
Okay.
I know
Literally right
exactly.
across from the hotel.
Yeah, I know where
You
it
can't
is.
miss it. There's a giant sign now above that, and it looks just like my shirt here.
Yeah, yeah.
The reason I got the shirt is because I contributed the death mask, my death mask, and the pistol, a facsimile of the pistol Joseph Smith used in the jail,
The pepper box one.
pepper box
Yeah.
pistol.
We have one right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, the death
The
mask.
death mask, yeah.
So that's all in the museum. You'll walk through it. It only takes about maybe 15 minutes. It's free, so you just you get out of the hot, humid weather and walk in there. It's all air conditioning.
So if you go to Nauvoo, I know where this is. If you go to Nauvoo and you're driving into Nauvoo, and you're driving on Mulholland, the temple's on the left, and then the mercantile's on the right. As you drive, probably 30 seconds to a minute longer, not even that. Like
Probably
block and a half.
15
probably
seconds.
15
Block,
seconds.
block and a half, right?
Like it's a
Basically,
block and
yeah.
a half from the mercantile.
It's
on the left hand
yes,
side.
and it's right across the street from the Hotel Nauvoo, the old
Right.
original
Yeah.
where the buffet is and everything.
Yeah.
Right across the street.
It's in the middle of the building. It's in between 2 other.
So it's
businesses.
perfect,
Yeah.
while you're waiting for other things, and there's like 5 restaurants right around it. Why not walk through there? Take 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It's all boards, and it takes you from the story in chronological order of
the last-
kind of everything we've done here with these podcasts.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Of course, the podcasts we're doing are much more
In-depth,
detailed,
yeah,
but I think everybody should go through and do that. But anyway,
Yeah, that is fantastic.
so getting back to our story, so we have 5 men indicted, and you can see these are not riffraff people. Okay, these
Because
are
this
these
is
are
a
very
high level.
prominent
This
people.
this is a high level assassination. That's what.
Yes.
I mean, this is what kind of one of the things that I wanted to make sure that everybody brings out. That this wasn't just a bunch of rabble rousers showing up and killing some
No.
random
Yeah.
guy.
And in fact,
this was high level stuff.
podunk guys.
No.
They're not.
It wasn't.
no,
In
no,
fact,
guys.
I think I told you this before, but now I'll actually read it to you.
Yes.
So out of Dallin Oaks' book, if we go right to the second chapter, it says "Murder by Respectable Set of Men." That's the title in chapter 2. Now let me just read just a little bit of the first paragraph. It says, "The murder of Joseph and Hyrum Smith." Now this is Dallin Oaks, so I'm talking about him.
Mm-hmm.
The murder of Joseph and Hyrum Smith at Carthage, Illinois, was not a spontaneous, impulsive act by a few personal enemies of the Mormon leaders. And listen to what he says here, but a deliberate political assassination.
Wow.
Okay, and most people.
When did he write this again? This was a long time.
So
ago.
this is written. I think the first one came out in 1972.
Yeah, it's been around
Yeah.
for a long time.
1975
Yeah.
was
Wow.
the first printing. So we're talking 50 years this year,
See,
right?
this is
50 years.
This is so important because I've come to the conclusion on my own that this was a political assassination. Now I love even more now that we have words at the time. that, Dallin H. jokes. Now he's the prophet of the
Yeah,
church.
yeah, exactly. He knew back then.
He knew back
and he
then.
was a lawyer. He's a constitutional lawyer, dean of a law school in Illinois, and or at least a department. And so most people, in our other previous podcasts, we go into detail about this, but most people don't realize that really the key factor was not religion. Joseph was running for president of the United States. He was a candidate.
Yep.
He controlled the voting bloc in Illinois. Illinois had 9 electoral votes. And remember, there was only 26 states in the United States then. So 9 votes today would be small. But back then, nine votes was huge. Okay. Yeah. And so he controlled that. And so even if he wasn't going to be president, he was going to decide who was. Okay.
Right.
And so one way or another, Joseph Smith, when he ran for president, was really a fly in the ointment for all the other candidates who were running for president. They had to get him out of the way. And I think that's what Dallin Oaks was referring to.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's amazing how this happened. There's been a lot of things that have happened since we actually were together last to do the last couple of podcasts. So we've had the change in the prophet, number one.
Yeah, we have.
But we also had the assassination of Charlie Kirk as well.
Yeah.
Right.
You think about the difference, how that has affected the United States now. And we still don't know. I think nobody really knows for sure if that went very far up the chain or whatever as far as an assassination. But this went all the way up the chain.
It did. And we can't pinpoint any specific people that were running at the time, which one was involved. But I can this much we know for sure. Mm-hmm. We know that it was much bigger than Hancock County.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And today the story that's told, what I call the Sunday school story version, is that it was just a bunch of mobs that hated the Mormons because of their religious beliefs, and that's why Joseph went to Carthage, and that's why he died. And
the Carthage Grays did it.
And that's probably about
so forth,
10% of the truth.
Would it be appropriate to just kind of recap really quick in the other podcast that we did? Obviously, go reference it, but there was one thing that really stood out to me that you were mentioning, that a lot of the delegates met.
Oh, yeah.
In Carthage the night before.
Yeah, that's a great point that Brill, I'm glad you remembered that, Brill, because the night before, and this is something that's been hidden for a long time in the history books, kind of shoved under the table, but we know it because we have a specific witness and bodyguard of the prophet Joseph Smith, and everybody knows this man. His name is Stephen Markham. Mm-hmm. Stephen Markham was a bodyguard in Far West. We have stories. He's all throughout history. Later came out to Salt Lake, became a bishop out here in Provo and so forth. But Stephen Markham actually walked in on a private meeting the night before the martyrdom. So this would have been Wednesday evening, night before the martyrdom. And Tom Ford, and then what Brill mentioned, this is a little bit of a shocker.
Governor Thomas Ford.
23 delegates. Remember, it's a political year. Mm-hmm. Sorry. 23 delegates. We all know what delegates are. Mm-hmm. They're the ones who actually vote for the president when it becomes time to count the delegates up. Okay, each state has so many delegates.
Right.
So there are 23 delegates from 23 different states. Okay, 23 of the 26, so almost everybody, at that meeting the night before the martyrdom. So why would there be such interest
in little old Carthage?
Little old Carthage population was about 500 people. So it wasn't we were out here looking at the Mississippi River and having a good time in Illinois. No, this was we have one of the key agitators who's causing a fly in the ointment running for president. We all know what third parties do. The two main parties, Republican, and that it was Whig and it was not the Republicans yet. It was Whigs and Democrats at the time. We all know what happens when there's third parties that show up, right?
It can pull from one or the other parties.
Yeah, they pull votes,
yeah.
and so there were two actual in other parties now that had sprung up during this election, and the reason why is because this election was different than the other elections. And how was 1844 different? It was different because William Henry Harrison was the actual man elected, okay, and now this was back in 1840, the 1840 election, 4 years, we have an election every 4 years for president.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So in 1840, William Henry Harrison, who actually been elected, never took office because he died before, okay? Mm-hmm. So obvious. Then his vice president becomes the president, which was John Tyler. So John Tyler was the president for 4 years, but everybody looked at as in 1844 as this man we really never elected as president. We elected him as vice president.
Right.
So now open wide up, right? Anybody can come and contest because it's not like the incumbent is now running.
Right.
Okay. But even though John Tyler was running, everybody saw a chance to put their name in there. And there were several. John C. Calhoun from South Carolina. The biggest one was Henry Clay. Clear the way for Henry Clay was the motto in the papers. So and this is his third time running for president. So third time's a charm, right? Clear the way. And isn't that interesting? Clear the way for Henry Clay. In other words, if there's people out there that are get rid of it, try and buy off. And there was a lot of behind the scenes things that went on there. I've read some of the issues between John C. Calhoun and Henry Clay and the letters back and forth. In fact, there's a lot of letters that Joseph Smith had sent to Henry Clay back and forth.
So it's interesting, and it's important. Go watch that. I believe it was like part 2.
Yeah, I can't remember which one. I lost track of it.
But we'll reference it. It's in the description. Go watch that because it goes into details. Something that's going on in Texas. You got a bunch of other people that are associated. Anyway, back to
and you even had you have a couple of new things that show that they were coming from other states to Carthage.
Yeah, and that's what's and that's what I'm going to kind of lead into, and this is really surprising. So let's first focus. Let's go back now and focus on the light story, okay? Because I want to answer people's questions.
Yeah.
So this would be the flash of light after Joseph is already killed. He's already been shot. He's dead. He's by the well. People wanted to come up and take his head off because there was a price on his head.
Just go through the time frame just again, so because I'm wondering if we ought to do the shooting first because that happens
first.
Let's
do that. Okay, if you want to do it in chronological order, let me shift gears here a little bit. Then.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this. So the William Daniels story is the story that he tells outside the jail. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And we know all the stuff that occurred inside the jail because we get that from our 2 apostles. So what happened outside the jail, we get all of that comes from the mob member that I told you about that joined the church. His name was William Daniels. Mm-hmm. And he was one of the key witnesses at the trial. And he
wasn't a member at the time.
No, he wasn't a member at the time of the trial, but what they really tried to do, well, what he did was he gave his first testimony right directly after the martyrdom. And then in the meantime, he had joined the church, and then he was a member by the time he came to the trial.
Okay, a year later.
Okay, and of course the attorneys jumped all over the top of that. Jonathan Browning was the main guy. Now, O.H. Browning, not Jonathan Browning. Jonathan Browning is the gunman.
Right, that's what I was wondering.
Okay, so don't confuse those two; they're not the same. So anyway, so he tore apart William Daniels' testimony. Based on this flash of light that saved Joseph's body from being mutilated. Okay. And so for all of these years, even up into our own history, okay, B.H. Roberts, who was one of the key historians during the turn of the century, 1800s to 1900s, actually during his history, the black, not the regular blue ones, but the black history, his 5-volume history, history of the church, he took the entire story of William Daniels out of the church history books because he said and this is what I'm quoting him now. He says there was too much. We were relying too much in church history on William Daniels' testimony, and of course went the flash of light story. And all of that with it, right? When he took that out. So it was entirely, so you won't find the flash of light story in any of the church history books. You'll find it in history books, but not in that one.
But why do you think that they just, because it was supernatural? And
it was a supernatural story. It's like,
it's like God had something to do with this. Or
and it also came up in court. And so this is how they blew his testimony in court. So, and you got to remember all those people in the courtroom, right? They're all kind of biased on one side.
Right. They're all enemies of Joseph Smith.
Yeah. So this would be like having the Charlie Kirk trial of Tyler Robinson at the college where it happened. Okay. So So you know what I'm trying to say?
Surrounded by a bunch of people who hate Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is, let's talk about the flash of light story, because why would I want to talk about that? I always thought to myself, if I could find a second witness, if I could just find a second witness besides William Daniels that talked about the flash of light story,
Yeah.
then the two connections, in the mouth of two or three witnesses. If I could do that, then maybe we could. And if we did find somebody like that, boy, we better take a second look at William Daniels' testimony. Now, this is the book. I think Brill has this book.
That's right.
On the picture there somewhere.
Now, in our first, I think it was the first podcast that we did together, I had heard of this flash of light thing, and I've taken many groups to Carthage, on tours and so forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have the missionaries come out and they do their this is their script as far as what they're supposed to say there. And
that's all
nobody
based on,
ever said anything
and that's
about
all
the
based
flash
on
of
Willard
light.
Richards'
Yeah.
story inside the jail.
Right.
And maybe his couple seconds of his viewing out the window and then turning back to go save John Taylor, his friend.
Yeah.
So
But I had heard about it, but I was wondering, why do they not say anything when you're at the jail, when people are there as visitors to the visitor center there at Carthage, and they never say anything about this flash of light? Do you think that's going to change?
I have a little place under the tree.
I think it should change. After these podcasts, I think that's got to change.
Well,
I mean, maybe not, but we'll see.
Brill has it. So listen, I was back this summer.
Yes.
This summer I was back. Now we're back to the flash of light story.
Yes.
I'm sorry I jumped back to that, but it's all tied in. Why don't we go to there anyway? Because I was back there this summer in the memoriam. So every year there's a memorial that we have on the 27th of June. 3,000 people show up. They put all the chairs out there from all the stake centers, and they have a presentation, and it's beautiful. There's singing involved. It's just gorgeous. But I've been to that for 6, 7, 8 years. And I have never, it shocked me when I was there this time, because now they talked about William Daniels for the first time. I thought, well, I don't know what brought it about. It wasn't me.
You don't think so?
I don't think it was me.
I
don't think it had anything to do with me. But
Why?
I just know that they themselves maybe started to find the same things that I found out as I started to do this research. That
maybe they were watching. Maybe they were watching the podcast, and now they found out that
I don't know
what you know.
I doubt it. But can we play? I've asked Brill to play that little piece. Now, it's by a church historian sent out there to give this talk on Joseph Smith at the jail, and there's just a little 2-minute piece where he mentions William Daniels. Let's play that.
We're gonna play it.
Then Joseph attempted as the last resort to leap the same window from whence Mr. Taylor fell, when 2 balls pierced him from the door, and one entered his right breast from without. And he fell outward, exclaiming, "O Lord, my God." As his feet went out the window, my head went in, the balls whistling all around. He fell on his left side, a dead man. At this instant the cry was raised, "He's leaped the window," and the mob on the stairs and in the entry ran out. I withdrew from the window, thinking it of no use to leap out on 100 bayonets then around General Smith's body. Not satisfied with this, I again reached my head out the window and watched some seconds to see if there was any signs of life. Regardless of my own, determined to see the end of him I loved, fully satisfied that he was dead. Another account by a witness named William Daniels, who was outside the jail, stated that Joseph was shot after he'd fallen out of the window. He said that he was placed against the well curb and shot several times, while Levi Williams exclaimed, shoot him, damn him, shoot him." Regardless of how it happened, there was no disputing the end result. The prophet Joseph Smith was dead, murdered while under the pledged protection of the state. Forever after, this event would be known among the Latter-day Saints as the Martyrdom. The church, however, did not die with Joseph. His enemies found this out to their chagrin, that no unhallowed hand can stop the work from progressing.
So you can see by watching that, this is the first time. So I was actually sitting there just almost half asleep, because we were an hour and 20 minutes into it. I thought, okay, I know all this story. He's doing a good job. He's doing a wonderful job. And all of a sudden I heard William Downs. And I went, whoa, what? Wait a minute. I thought, okay, so there is another
There we
side of the
go.
story.
There we go.
So,
It's
what I
efficient.
want to do today is I think that we're arriving. It may be small steps, baby steps, but I think that we're arriving at some of the latest research.
Can you quickly explain? So who was that guy?
This guy here,
this guy.
okay, I have his name here, right here. Let's see. His name is Adam Petty. So this is Adam Petty,
Okay.
church, a historian, degree in history from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, sent out to give this talk.
Okay. All right.
So, so I really say thanks, Adam Petty, because
Right.
you know, do we will we ever know for sure? I don't know, but I've got a lot of things I can show you that maybe might help. Okay, and new things, but at least we recognize that there's really a maybe we don't, maybe we don't have the full story, right? And so what I want to do now is, and I'll come back to the 4 shooters. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But I want to talk about the second witness. Yes, we did find a second witness, and we announced that in one of the previous podcasts. Her name was Mary Elizabeth Rollins Leitner. And if you're not familiar with who she is, you will be, because when I mentioned that she was one of the 2 girls that saved the documents while we were trying to print the Book of Commandments in Missouri, and they ran into the cornfield and saved the papers. We all know that story.
Put him in the dress and
We all know that story. Well,
Yeah.
so and last time I had, this is where I got so many comments. Where can I find the story about Mary Rollins Leitner? Where can I go turn to this and look for it? And I said, okay, now I'm going to show you the real place. And here's the thing: when I read, if I can find it here. So remember, I told everybody in that podcast that this is the book that I had found about Mary Rollins Leitner. I wasn't reading it to find out about the light story. I just wanted to know more about her life and what happened to the little girl who saved the pages, right?
Yeah.
So I got this little tiny book. It's called The Autobiography of Mary Elizabeth Leitner.
Yeah.
Okay. And I started reading it, and I got to this page 20. And it said here that you can go find the more detailed account in my journal. And I thought, well, I thought this was a journal, right? So I thought, well, okay, well,
It's
where
the
is it?
autobiography, I guess.
So I started looking on the internet, and here's what I came up with. Well, here's 50 pages of her original journal. And I noticed that they had cut out the light story that she brings up in this book.
Okay, now, you got to go into that. This is fascinating.
So I got reading in here. I thought, wait a minute, I got to go back and check this book. And I went, okay, here's the exact words in here, but the light story's cut out in here. Just like B.H. Roberts had cut out the light story when his history. There's something about this light story that people think no one's going to believe this.
Well, it's almost like,
so let's just take it out.
Yeah, it's almost like miracles don't happen today anymore. Miracles don't happen in the 18th and 19th century anymore.
But you know what? There's another example in the Book of Mormon. Lehi shocked his 2 brothers.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Lord said, just shock them.
Yeah.
Why couldn't you do it here?
Exactly.
Okay, so what I'm thinking is, why don't we go through what her journal said first, and then how they changed it when they did.
Okay, so let's go through this.
So you can see the
read her
difference.
journal. So if we have it up here, so Brill has this already. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of yellowed out. Okay, so this is like page 40 of her journal out of these 50 pages. Okay, so we're looking in here. It says right there. It says. So let me just give you a little background, so we have to read the whole page. So they came to Mary Rollins Leitner.
Who's they?
Okay, the people who were in Apponeuse who hated Joseph Smith. Yeah. There were some people. Okay, they were the only members of the church up in Apponeuse. It's a little town about 10 miles north of Carthage. North of Nauvoo.
Nauvoo, yeah.
Okay, and they came to her and they says, "We want you to make us a flag." Okay. Why don't you make us a flag, because we're going to go to Carthage. We're going to be participant tomorrow in what's happening at Carthage. So this was the day before. This had been the 26th.
Right.
Okay. The same time that the little meeting with the 23 delegates
which is
happening.
the Wednesday.
There's a lot going on this Wednesday.
Okay.
There's a lot going on.
So they decide. They says, we want you to make us a flag, so they know that we're the members of the mob from Apponeuse.
Apponeuse.
Right. Put it on our horse's side,
right,
and we'll ride proudly into it. Well, they returned the day after that to tell Mary Rollins Leitner what had happened. And this is what we're reading now in her journal. So let's read this. It says, this company left for Carthage, returning during the night. As soon as we were up in the morning, a number of the men, so this is the day of the martyrdom now, a number of the men came and called us to the door and said, the Smiths are dead.
This is the day after.
Yeah, so this is the,
Yeah.
and look at this part right here. What does it say? And they do say a great light appeared, okay, when they were killed. I
Right.
said, that should prove to you that Joseph was the true prophet and man of God. That was Mary Rollins Lightner talking.
Right.
And listen, what this was their response. One answered, it proves that the Lord was well pleased with what was done.
So this technically, so
Two
this
different
is
spins on the same.
Two different
same
spins on this,
account.
but both of them talk about this.
Right.
This is from now a well documented, good member of the church
right.
who's documented all through history, and now we also have the mob talking about the flash of light, and now we have William Dent. So we really have three different groups of people all talking about the flash of light. So did the flash of light really occur?
Right.
And if it did, which it kind of looks so, if it did, then maybe we ought to take a little closer look at William Daniel's story written in this book. This was the first book written on the martyrdom, 1882. And I have one of the only 10 surviving copies.
So
there's only 10 copies of that surviving.
You can get this. It's in reprint. It's called The Martyrs. You can find it. But this is the actual
book.
Okay.
The original one.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I'm like noticing here is, so we have Wednesday, like you just mentioned, a lot of things are happening on Wednesday.
Well,
You have
it's the planning day.
earlier in the day, you have these men that are approaching Mary Elizabeth Lightner. And then sometime in that same afternoon, evening, you have these delegates that are meeting in Carthage, right? And then that same evening, or was it the following evening, that Tom Ford...
Well,
he's having dinner.
Okay, so that is the actual time
with
of
Emma.
the martyrdom story.
That's the actual time,
Yeah.
right? And so let me just jump ahead. So then these guys don't go back to talk to Mary Elizabeth Lightner until Friday, technically.
Yeah.
Right? Because the day after the martyrdom.
Yes, the day after the martyrdom. So that
Right.
would have been Friday.
Okay.
Yeah. And not only that, we probably didn't read the rest of that, but she said that they threatened her life, that if she told them,
If she went to their
if she went to the funeral of Joseph Smith, that they would kill her.
Oh, wow.
Because obviously she would talk to people about these men who would expose the men from Appanus. So they threatened her life. It says right there,
they
told us if we attempted to go to the funeral that we would
Be shot.
Okay. Now let me read the small version story has the flash of light sentence taken out of this book. So you have if you want to know the flash of light, you got to go to the full.
Oh man. So read this.
So let me read this.
This is interesting. Someone in the history department or whatever decided to
maybe it was whoever was in their family that decided to have this printed. This is not the church. This is not the church.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
This is whoever decided to make up her story. And it's actually by the I'm not really sure where this came from actually, who did it.
Autobiography.
But
I assume it's hers.
Anyway, yeah. So anyway, it says the mob of men from Pontusiac, I said Appanus, but they're the same place, who had compelled me to make a flag and who were bent upon the destruction of the prophet Joseph Smith, as was already referred to in the last entry of my journal. That's what tipped me off. That's what, wait a minute. I thought this was
the journal,
an exact copy of the journal.
Right.
But there's more, right? And this book would be 3 times the size, right?
Yeah.
So then it said, as soon as we were up in the morning, so now we're kind of right at that same paragraph, 8 or 10 men, here they actually mention the number. In there they just said
a few men.
Yeah. So I don't know where they got the 8 or 10 because it doesn't say that.
It doesn't say that in the journal.
8 or 10 men came to the door and called us to come to the door. When we came, they told us that the Smiths were killed. They said that if we attempted to go to the funeral. So there you go. The flash of light story is
that
gone.
it's like a sentence, 2 sentences are out.
Yeah, it's taken out.
Wow.
So whoever did this, looking at her journal, decided that wasn't important.
Or maybe they were leaned on to leave it out for
Yeah.
some reason. Because
So
what's the
I
what's the,
don't- I
what's the
don't
date
know
of this?
why.
When was this done?
So this one is, let's see. I'm not even really sure. It doesn't really even say.
Well, yeah.
But again,
It
you know,
doesn't really even say when this is
to
printed,
give the
to be
benefit of the
honest with you.
doubt, I mean, if up until this moment, leaving the
They
light
printed it
story out,
as if she was just actually saying this,
yeah.
Yeah.
but they left parts out.
So I mean, to give the benefit of the doubt, right? Up until this point, they've been leaving that part out because they think that maybe you know miracles don't happen anymore, right?
Well, and they only had, they thought, one account. And as a historian, you can't put a lot of weight on a single account.
But now listen, we have,
Right.
this is the best of all the worlds, because now we have a member of the church who we all respect talking about the light story. We also have four men who
mob.
participated at the mob telling about the light story. And we also have William Daniels, who was a part of the mob who later joined the church,
Right.
testifying in court about the light story. We have all three people that obviously don't have anything to do with each other.
Right.
Okay. And that's what you look for in a turn. If you're Dallin Oaks, you want to find three people who saw what happened, but they didn't know each other.
So
Right.
I'm a little excited here. At what point are you bringing in?
Okay. So now we're going to talk about, since this, I've now discovered some additional information.
So can
Okay.
I throw in where the little piece that I had?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you throw in,
because you've got something
you
I haven't
throw
even
in,
heard
you
yet.
throw in that story.
Yes. Okay.
So-
So after these came out, a friend of mine who lives right here in Manti area, basically in San Pete County, she called me up and she said, "Hey," she said, "you know what? I was watching the podcast, and she said, I think it's her third great grandfather's journal, and it has some information about this flash of light." I said, "Well, I think Craig would probably be very interested in that." And so we
Yeah.
got together. This is Kimberly Jacobson. I want to make sure I get her a little kudos here for you, Kimberly. This is fantastic information here. It's her third great grandfather, Charles Pulsifer. She said, I've got the handwritten, she actually has the handwritten journal,
Yeah, we look.
but this has been put on Family Search where they've actually now have put it into print. It is on page 11 of the document. If you go to the Family Search here, I'm going to turn it this way so I can see it. Now on the numbered pages up at the top of the pages, it's let's see here. Right here, that's 7. There's 8. Okay, so here we go. And this is what her she said. Okay. He went to Carthage and gave himself up to the governor, Thomas Ford, who pledged his honor to protect him. No evil could be found against him, but his enemies were heard to say, "If the law will not reach him, powder and ball shall." And so they carried out this damnable threats for the 27th of June, 4 o'clock. An armed mob rushed upon the jail and shot them down. Brother Hyrum fell first. Brother Joseph, thinking to save the other brethren, jumped from the window to the ground and fell with 4 balls pierced him through and through. And thus we see his last prediction fulfilled, while the other brother Hyrum and Taylor fell on the floor in the upper room, and their blood was shed on the floor and never can be washed out. But Joseph's was spilt upon the ground and ran like water. And thus we see these last words spoken in this public address literally fulfilled in the short space of 7 days. Little did the people think his time was so short. When the ruffian, this is where we got, when the ruffian rushed forward with drawn knife to cut his head from his body, it being a clear, sunny, shiny day, a streak of electricity.
I like the way you can tell that it's written from an old journal because she doesn't put electricity. She starts it with electricity.
Electricity, like lightning, struck him while he had the knife drawn and helpless and palsed. Thus we see the power of the Lord made manifest to prevent him from any further mutilating his body. They had been permitted to take his life, but no further can you go. And this man stood helpless and had to be on off by his comrades. The day was very sorrowful for the saints. Everyone was in mourning.
Yeah. So
she brought this journal entrance and so forth and told us about it. And I'm like, Craig, what do you think?
Well, and I looked at the papers that we had in our hands, and they were all, the typical old cursive writing
Right.
that you
Yes.
see. And I thought, see, that's what happens when you start talking about this. People go, wait a minute, I have something about that in my history, and I have something about. See, that's what's happening with the Joseph Smith papers.
Yes.
Wait a
Right.
minute. Oh, we got to change the headings of the D&C to this date and not that date, because guess what?
Right.
We've now found new info. That's what's happening with the martyrdom story.
That's exactly what's
The
happening.
martyrdom story is happening. So I have another one that this one
Isn't that cool though?
It
yeah,
is.
That is. That's
And
amazing.
it's a result from you guys supporting our channel and then this going out to so many people, and then so many people have seen this, and now all of a sudden they're coming back with.
You just wait, because
It's
you're
awesome.
not ready for this one.
Yeah, I can't hardly wait. This is going to be awesome.
Hey, this one's. I don't know if I haven't told you yet.
No.
So I told Brill, and I thought Brill was going to fall off his chair. You know,
I
it would be
almost-
bad because then we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing. But anyway, so I was at the symposium that we had up at the Book of Mormon
the expo.
Evidence Symposium.
Yeah,
The expo.
yeah.
I was the last speaker late at night because of my schedule.
Yep.
And so we were there, I don't know, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. And I thought to myself, there's going to be everybody was clearing the desks out. There's going to be one or two people show up, right? And I was told I still had to do my program, even if one person was sitting
we're
on and it might
recording
even
it.
be Rod. He might be the only person there.
There was a lot of people.
So all of a sudden, so I walked in there, and my sister was with me, helping me with the sale of my books, and at the table, and so she walked in and she said, "There's 100 people, 150 people in there." Yeah.
Which, by the way, we haven't even mentioned this, but this is the book, and you can actually get this on our website.
Yeah.
This is Like a Lamb to the Slaughter: Revisiting the Martyrdom of Joseph Smith, Craig R. Dunn.
Yeah, I had to put it together. So anyway, I just couldn't. You just can't stand it, right? You got to put it in the brain.
Right.
But anyway, so all 150 people show up. Well, right before I went in there, and we were getting right up against the clock.
Yeah.
A lady came up to the table and she says, "Hey, I've been watching your podcast. You gotta have this. Here it is. Right, I gotta run, but read it. It's out of my family. I think you might find it interesting." And I thought, yeah, I get 1 million of these, right? Well, this is 1 in a million. Okay. So, and I called her before we came here today, and I asked her if it was okay if I used her ancestors' information and her name. So I'm going to give her name is K. Star Henninger.
Whoa, Henninger? K-Star Henninger?
K. Star Henninger.
Oh my gosh, she's a dear friend of mine.
Well, then okay.
In fact, her sister Shirley comes from Australia to our conferences quite often.
I think she said something about that.
She has this awesome
Oh,
choir.
I know who you're talking about.
K-Star.
So, yeah.
So this is her.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
This is her.
K-Star. Shout out for K-Star.
Yeah, and now she's when I called her about 5 days ago, she said, I think it was about 5 days ago. She says, I've been remarried since I was at the I was there. Yeah.
K-Star, you're in trouble.
Yeah, she got
You didn't
remarried.
even let me know.
So her name is no longer. Her name's now K. Star Henninger Abrams.
Oh, Abrams. Okay.
Abrams.
We'll forgive
Okay.
you, K-Stars.
She left me her phone number, which is good because otherwise I wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
call her. So thank you very much. So Kay, I'm gonna use this account. Now I'm not gonna tell the whole story about the broken arm story because there's 6 pages in here. But so what happened was
broken arm story.
there's a story in here about her ancestor, and I will mention his name. His name was John Randolph Thompson. And here's a picture. He's a little tiny boy here, but when he was a little boy, he had his arm snapped. Okay, and so through some miraculous events that I won't have time to go through, his arm was healed enough to where he actually became a baseball pitcher. I think it was at Utah State. A baseball pitcher.
Oh my
to Utah State. Go Aggies, right?
Yeah, go
Wait.
Aggies. That's right.
So
That's right.
anyway, but here's the part. I got reading. I thought, well, what does this have to do with anything? I love this story. Whoops. Star Wars. I love the story. I love the story about the broken arm story. That was maybe, but how does it tie in with the flash of light story?
Right.
So I'm reading this and I thought, okay, this is a wonderful story for the family. I says, but I don't see how it relates until I got to the last page. So I'm going to read this. You ready? And literally it says right here, now for the rest of the story. So this is not from Paul Harvey, but she had the phrase first. It says, so now for the rest of the story. So there's a doctor who was not LDS that came to help the boy with the broken arm. Okay.
Okay.
And back in those days, early pioneer days, nobody worked on Sunday, even doctors. Okay. It's like you can wait till, if it wasn't an emergency,
Too bad.
we wait till Monday. We'll set the bone on Monday. Right.
Right.
So here it is. So a Dr. Carnahan, and I looked it up. He did exist. He was a real doctor there. Dr. Carnahan was the only doctor that could be obtained that day.
And this is Sunday.
Sunday, as he was not a Mormon and was willing to work on Sunday. Okay.
Okay.
No one else would believe it was serious enough to be bothered. Okay. Especially on the Sabbath. George Perry Thompson, my great grandfather and father of John Randolph Thompson, who had the broken arm, asked Dr. Carnahan why he settled here amongst mostly Mormons when he was a non-member. I understand that.
Yeah.
It's a valid question.
Okay. Today it's different.
Yeah.
Right.
Back then everybody was LES. And
Right.
Nobody
Everybody
came
came
here.
out
Yeah,
here,
they
yeah.
stayed for a day or two and they went to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's like, why would you come to the
Yeah.
far west?
Like Mark
So
Twain.
Dr. Carnahan, who was from Virginian, answered that he had been with the mob that had murdered the prophet Joseph Smith. Okay. He had not participated, but had done nothing to try and stop it either. So I'm reading from the journal here. After the prophet landed on the ground outside the window, you notice he wasn't dead yet. Okay?
Correct.
And he was leaning against the well. A powerful light knocked the men of the mob away from the prophet. So here's another light story.
Wow.
As they approached him with intent to sever his head. Now, this is the part that gets me. Okay. He had been asked to care for those three men as they were really hurt bad. So he was the doctor who cared for the men that got hit with the light flash. Okay, now listen to this. When he examined the men, literally every bone in their body had been broken by the impact of the light force. And that they didn't have X-rays then, so they were just doing it by looks,
By
and
looks
feel,
and feel, yeah.
You know,
Which you can
so he
feel.
probably, I would guess, he probably felt the main bones, the main
Right.
structures. I'm an
Right.
anatomist at the college,
Right.
so you know you can tell if there's a fracture.
Yeah, the ulna, the radius.
Anyway,
you know,
so-
Decrepitus.
Yeah. So anyway, when he examined the men, literally every bone in their body had been broken by the impact of the light force. Okay, that had struck them and knocked them away from the prophet. Medically, others would say that this was not possible, but he examined them and knew it to be a fact. He then stayed with them until they all died.
Isn't that mind blowing?
Whoa,
So-
I did not know that.
Yeah. So
They said
this.
there was three of them though.
Yeah. So now here's the other thing. Also, okay. So
Which makes sense if you add it up. If you add it up, it makes sense.
The shooters at the jail, which we're going to talk about in a minute,
Yeah.
we're going to bring that whole story into
Yeah.
this, were not the same as the men that tried to take his head off. Evidently, they shot Joseph Smith, and then the three men, knowing he was dead, came up too.
Okay,
So
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 let me
there's-
get this straight. So we got the guys who went up the stairs, shot into the room. They left there.
Came back
They
down the
came
stairs,
back
came
down.
out,
They
and
had
formed
to
the.
reload because these are
Correct.
not semi-automatic
Correct.
weapons, so they have to. They're
And remember in
reloading.
the previous podcast, I told you
Mhm.
that they heard he's leaped the window.
Yeah.
So that's when the mob, knowing that now Joseph was not in the room, went back down the stairs, and that was the tip that gave Joseph's personal bodyguard, Willard Richards, the plan to grab John Taylor from under the bed. That was the moment they had,
Drag him into the other
because
room.
he couldn't have done that if
The
the men were
dungeon
still
cell.
on outside the door.
Right.
Right.
So he had checked. Oh, they're gone.
Yeah.
Right? They're gone outside to take care of Joseph outside. So I'm going to take John Taylor. So that was the moment
Yeah.
that those men had now retreated to the jail yard
Probably at this point in time, maybe the smoke had started to clear a little bit from the gunpowder inside the room, from all the shots that were fired inside
we
the
know
room.
from
They
Willard
dragged
Richards
him
that
out
John
from there.
Taylor actually spoke up. I think Willard Richards thought that John Taylor was dead.
Yeah.
And then he spoke up and he says, "Take me with you." And he's still alive. I'm going to go grab him.
Oh, you know what? And
That's
that makes me think that one of the things was that he couldn't even see him through the smoke. He just
exactly.
heard
That's
the
the whole
point
point I brought
through
this
the
up.
smoke, and then
That's-
went to, where are you?
Yeah.
So
That's
now,
the point.
So now
Got him.
fast forward, they're outside. Okay, so now everyone's back outside, and then the general is telling the one guy, shoot him.
Yeah. So now remember I told you about
Yeah.
Levi Williams? The actual trial was the state versus
Right.
Levi
Levi
Williams. Levi Williams was in charge of all the militia of the 59th militia in the entire state of Illinois. And he was from Green Plains. It's about a mile south of Warsaw. That's where his home was. Okay. And so he was there directing everything. And that's when he said, shoot Joseph, when he was hanging outside the window before he had dropped to the ground. Nobody was willing to do it,
Right.
including him. Okay.
Because he was yelling at them to do it.
Because you have to realize that we now have a candidate for president of the United States who is well known throughout the country hanging on the windowsill. Who's going to be the first one to take him out? Nobody wants to do it because obviously they would have been the prime suspect, right?
Right.
This is the man that shot him while he was hanging in the windowsill. So nobody did it. So after they got out there, he had to actually ask the four men who had gone at the top, who was brave enough to go to the top of the stairs and be the first guys to shoot through the door. He asked them to form the four-man firing squad, and they did the shooting. So now I'm going to
literally took Joseph Smith, set him up against the well.
Yep.
Backed up. They had just recharged their ball and musket, basically, right?
Right.
Their ball there,
Mhm.
and
this is the William Daniels story.
Style.
This is the William Daniels
Right.
story, who's standing just feet away and watching all of this, who later became, when it reported to Nauvoo, and became a member of the church after this. Okay, so this is what the church now is saying here about the William Daniels story about being shot outside the jail. I find that awesome that Betty said from the church historian said that that this is the story outside the jail.
Yes.
Okay, because by this time Willard Richards was not there watching it.
Right.
He who was in taking John Taylor and making sure the mattress was put over that took several minutes.
Yeah.
He had to put him under the mattress. They spoke to one another. Is Joseph really dead? So forth. Well, and so forth. Okay. So I really, truly believe that Willard Richards did see Joseph at the bottom, motionless, because he was totally stunned, thinking he was dead.
Right.
He didn't see the rest of it. He didn't stay in the window for 5 minutes and watch what was going on out there. He had to go take care of John Taylor. Okay. And so this is where I promised the people that made the comments on the other podcast that I would tell them, we now know who the four men were.
Wow.
And not just because we think, it's because they admitted to it. And we have it in church history, and not church history, but historical documents.
All right, so Craig, so before we get any further, I get the feeling this is going to go into a much deeper thing, right?
You are correct.
So actually, what we're going to do is, I think we're going to make this into a separate podcast. So this will be not number 5. This will be number 6, and but this part of it is so important, and I haven't even heard a lot of this.
Yeah, neither
Folks,
have I.
You're going to want to stick with us. You're going to want to go. Make sure you subscribe right now while you're here. And then also, and when we come up with number 6, then you'll get the notification that that's coming up, and you'll be able to see that. But we're going to be talking about the 4 individuals. Who are they? Where were they from? How did they get there? The nuts and bolts of this. How do we even know about this? Where did this information come from?
Yes.
And you're going to be finding out things that even our church historians, a lot of them probably are not 100% aware of. So
Okay.
buckle up, everybody. We're going to have a good time on this next one. So thank you for being here. Again, subscribe, and we'll see you in just a second.
Okay. See you in a bit.